Hi all, myself Ajana, Assistant Professor, Department of English, KTCT College of Arts and Science, Kalambala. In this video, I am going to deal with some topics which comes under the paper Linguistics and Structure of Language for S3 MA English Language and Literature students. So, by hearing the paper Linguistics and Structure of Language, you definitely give an idea that this paper is not going to deal with any literature part. So, basically, this paper deals with linguistics and the structure of language. So, let's begin. So, first of all, we have to know that what is a language. Actually, there is no comprehensive definition of language, but we give some definition for language. It is a system that associates sounds or gestures with meanings in a way that uses words and sentences. Alright? So, we can discuss language on the basis of some number of features. So, we can check it out. Also, language, it is a means of communication and self-expression. As we know that if we have to convey any ideas or thoughts or our emotions, we certainly know some language, because if we have to communicate with one another, we usually use language. So it's a means of communication and self-expression. Next is language which is non-instinctive and conventional. Language is symbolic and language is systematic. We know that we certainly use what sentences, words, etc. So, if we use a sentence, it certainly have a system. It certainly follows a system. That means if you give a sentence or if you say any sentence, it probably have a subject part, verb part, and also an object part. So, you have to give a sentence which is systematically arranged. Alright? So, we can say that, for example, the teacher teaches English. Can you ever use teachers teacher English? No. Okay, so it actually follows a system. It have an arrangement of words. Alright, so language, it is systematic. Language, it is a form of social behavior, that we already discussed, that language which is used for communication. Also in our society, we have to communicate with one another, so we certainly knows a language. So it is a form of social behavior. Next feature is language which is open-ended, extendable and modifiable. So language which is it is open-ended. Alright, it is not a closed system. And you can definitely give any modifications or any changes to a certain sentences. Actually, it is extendable. You can extend it and you can modify it. Anyway, it is an open-ended system. So basically, language is not a closed-ended, it is open-ended, extendable and modifiable. Next one is language is structurally complex. That means even though if it feels simple to produce and understand language. Alright, we already feels that it is simple to produce and understand language, but actually it is a very complex behavior. It has some complexity. So that is why it is structurally complex. Next is language is vocal and language is human. As we know that as a human being, we have the ability to speak and we have certain language to communicate with one another. Okay, so there is some part that which deals with animal language, the difference between animal language and human language. Okay, animals certainly they have also their own language, and but by comparing with us, that is not much elaborated language, or that doesn't follow any language, human language. Okay, so language which is human. So basically these are the things, or these are the uh, main features of this language. As we know that Aristotle says that speech which is the representation of the experience of mind. Alright, speech which is the representation of experience of the mind. So basically it is what actually we speak is, it is actually the experience of our mind. Okay, and also Aesop, who says that language which is a purely human and non-instinctive method of communicating ideas, emotions and desires by means of a system of voluntarily produced symbols. Alright, so language is basically a purely human and non-instinctive method of communicating ideas, emotions and desires by means of a system of voluntarily produced symbols. Okay, so next we are going to discuss about linguistics. So what is this linguistics? Linguistics, it is basically a scientific study of the system in principles underlying human languages. Basically, it is the study of or scientific study of human language. That word linguistics has derived from Latin words lingua, which means tongue, and istus, that means knowledge or science. So, therefore, it is the scientific study of language. But it is the study not of any particular language but of human language in general. So, we have to know that linguistics is basically what deals with, or basically it is the scientific study of human languages, not all languages but particularly the human languages. It studies language as a universal and recognizable part of human behavior. It attempts to describe and analyze language. So, linguistics actually it has two major aims. One is to study the nature of language and establish a theory of language. To describe a language or all languages by applying the theory established already. So, basically it is a scientific study of human languages. By studying it by the nature of language and establish a theory of language. And also we know that a linguist is a person who studies language in all its aspects. Okay, so who is a linguist is that it is a person who studies language in all its aspects. And as we know that polyglot, what is a polyglot or who is a polyglot? A person who knows several languages is called a polyglot. Okay, so actually a linguist is not necessarily to be a polyglot. Okay, so polyglot is a person who knows several languages, but a linguist is a person who studies language in all its aspects. So basically a linguist is not necessarily to be a polyglot. Also, a polyglot may not be a linguist. A person who knows several languages but he doesn't know the structure of language or the related things also. Okay. So, linguist, what is the job of a linguist is that he have to set up different but interrelated levels of analysis to describe the sounds, words, sentences, and meanings of human languages. They include phonological, morphological, lexical, syntactic, and semantic levels of analysis. Okay. So later we discussed about what is this phonology, morphology, syntax, semantics, etc. Okay, so basically a polyglot may not be a linguist, also a linguist may not be a polyglot, and the linguist who have to set up different but interrelated levels of analysis to describe the sounds, words, sentences, and meanings of human languages, and they include phonological, morphological, lexical, syntactic, and semantic levels of analysis. So, linguistics is that science which studies the origin, organization, nature, and development of language descriptively, historically, comparatively, and explicitly, and formulates the general rules related to language. Also later we have to discuss about the branches of linguistics and scope of linguistics also. Before that, we had to give a brief summary of diachronic linguistics and synchronic linguistics. So basically, diachronic linguistics or historical linguistics, which studies the development of language through history, through time. For example, the way in which French and Italian have evolved from Latin. Okay, so there is a historical analysis or historical study that a language which have to come from any other two languages. Alright, as we know that Hindi which comes from Sanskrit, like that Latin, French and Italian have evolved from Latin. So basically a study which depends upon the history of language or historical linguistics is that which studies the development of language through history, through time. Okay. Next is synchronic linguistics, which investigates how the people speak and use language in a given speech community at a given time. So basically at a given time, how the people speak and use language in a given speech community, and that is the area which investigates synchronic linguistics. Okay, so thanks for watching. Later we discussed about the other scope of linguistics in the coming videos. Okay, so thank you.